Hey, welcome back, guys. So this is going to be our Pig Wars Dark Age Skirmish playthrough. I think I got more requests to do this one than any of the other ones, which, more requests means maybe 2 or 3. But I'm actually very curious about this rule set. Now, I think I told you guys a little bit when I first was going through my independent games that this does use a card deck. Since then, I've had a chance to kind of read through the rules, and it's kind of interesting how the game plays. So essentially, you're going to have units, and from what the rulebook reads, the units can be composed any way you want. Matter of fact, they say the only formation in the game is a shield wall, which would be 3 or more figures close together, that have shields on their base. A lot of the rules are what you see is what you get, or what you see is what they have. So, for example, if you have an archer with a shield slung across their back, they actually are considered to have some protection if they get charged in the rear. The rules allow the figures, more or less, to move any way you want. So when they say units, a unit is, I'm assuming, is only whatever you group together, but the way you move is by figure. So basically, each figure will have a morale rating, which is considered, they call stripes. So I guess if you wanted to paint stripes on your bases, and this goes from, I think it's 0 to 3, with 3 being the highest. And then after you have your morale rating, the only thing else for the game, the melee, would be your tactical factors and your card draw. So you have movement, which is pretty open. You have a set movement unless you move into difficult terrain, and then after that you roll a die. You can charge, obviously, but you cannot pre-measure. Although it doesn't say what happens if you fail a charge. I was trying to figure out if there was some penalty if you didn't make it, but it doesn't say that there's a penalty other than you didn't make it. Horses can actually back up and charge because in order to get a charge bonus, the mounted figures must move at least half their movement. So, but if they want to back up, in order to make that half their movement, they can do that. So say a mounted figure is within 2 inches of you and its movement is 6. Well, if it charges you at 2 inches, it wouldn't get a charge bonus. Well, because his movement is 6, he can move back 2. You're now 4 inches away and he can now charge you, which I like because it takes away a thing I used to see in some games. And I don't know if it was Warhammer or maybe Kings of War, where people would move their figures real close to your mounted figures or other ones, but stop. Like they would stop. They're not going to charge them or hit them, but they move them so close that you can't charge or you can't get a charge bonus, which is totally unrealistic. So the way they deal with that here is if you try that crap with a mounted unit in this game, well, he can just back up. Right? He can back up and then complete his charge, which now the guy says, well, they do it in the movie. So he's not necessarily saying that would have been realistic for a huge mounted formation to back up. But then again, it wouldn't be realistic for somebody to stand within 4 or 5 feet, of mounted cavalry talking about, oh, now you can't charge us. So I like that they put that in there. Moving on to shooting. Shooting is pretty straightforward. Again, everything is pulling a card, so it's not about any dice or anything. Pretty much you have a shooting phase where each figure has to nominate who they're shooting at, but they cannot pick the same person unless there's no other choice. So you can't really gang up on, say, the leader and try to take him out with a bunch of shots, which I like. Line of sight is easy. You take some type of thread or shoestring and stretch it from where you're shooting to where you're shooting at. If it bends around any kind of terrain, it's blocked. If it goes over the terrain, it's not blocked. So you can't shoot over obstacles. You just can't, your arrows just can't bend. And that's why you use the string, which I think is a pretty cool mechanism. The field of fire is 180 degrees. Now, if you charge shooters and they have not shot, they can shoot you before you charge. They can fire. But if they have a shield and they want to use their shield, they have to decide if they want to use it, in which case they can't shoot. So that's also kind of a nice little interesting decision to make. The melee is basically, you move into contact. And the way melee works is, again, what I said is, so say you have a figure that is 3 stripes. He's attacking a figure that's 1 stripe. And let's say he charged. So he gets 3 for stripes. He gets 1 for the charge. And then he would draw a card. Right? And let's say he gets the king, which would be 10. And the other guy, let's say he gets 1. He gets 1 for, because that's his stripes. Let's say he's behind some kind of cover, which I'm not sure if the cover would add it, but I'm going to do it for this example. And he gets 2. So that's 3. He then draws a card. Right? Now, this case, I didn't shuffle these, so they got the same thing. So you would have 10 plus the other guy's 3 and 1, which is 14. You would have this guy's 10 plus his 3, which is 13. So he wins by 1. Now, the way they work it out is, depending on the quality of the unit, it may or may not be a kill. So some units you need to win by a certain amount in order to get a kill. I'm going to see where that's at. Victory margin. So UA is unarmored. If you win by 1, they're dead. If they're partially armored, you have to win by 2. If they're fully armored, you have to win by 4. Otherwise, I guess it's considered blocked, because the only ones that take wounds are leaders, and I think leaders can take up to 3 wounds, 3 hits before they're eliminated. So that's pretty straightforward. Other than that, the morale rules are pretty straightforward. There's different conditions that would cause a morale. Basically, for morale, again, you pull a card. If you're within your leader, you are considered 1 higher. So if you're unarmored, but you're, I think, within 6 of your leader, you're considered partially armored. You can never go past like elite, which is the morale 3. You can never go below 2, which is like the lowest card or whatever, or obviously 0 is the lowest morale. There is a hold card thing, which I'm not quite sure I understand this, but it says once per deck, a player may pick up any red face card or red ace. So say, for example, this card, I had already played it. So it says once per deck, meaning as you go through your deck, I can pick up one of these cards and use it as my hold card. It says, but not during missile fire. He must make the decision to pick up the card before he sees the next card in the deck. Right? So, I don't know. If I want to pick one up, I guess they're saying I have to pick this up. If he picks up the card to use as a hold card, he must then play the card next in the deck. So that means the next time I'm supposed to draw, I'd have to use this card. Right? So say I'm in that battle and it's my leader and I see a king in my discard pile. I can either draw or I can say, you know what, I'm going to pick up this king as my hold card. But now if he says, okay, what's your card? I have to use it in that next draw. It says this card, this hold card may then be played anytime later for a morale check, a melee combat by the leader, or a melee combat by the leader. The hold card may not be used for missile fire or as a block card against missile fire or combat by any other casting. And that casting is basically your figure, except the leader of the unit. Play if the hold card is in lieu of drawing a card from the deck. If the player uses the hold card for combat by his leader casting, he has the option to use it to get a hit on his opponent, or if a hit is already given to an enemy leader, he may use the hold card to cause a kill. if it is a heart. See section 5, leader combat. So that's just kind of a little thing where you can bring your whole cards into play, you know, at real important times in the game. Other than that, the game actually, that's pretty much it. They have some optional rules here in the back. So that's like page 14. You then get into some optional rules. You get some tactical suggestions. There's some rules on if you want to use this for Roman conflicts during the Roman era, some changes you can make. There's some information here on the Dark Age world, where they talk about some of the history of the Dark Ages and Harold and obviously some of the other leaders. And then they give you a buttload of these reference cards. I mean, these are all throughout the book. There's 1, 2, then there's another one back here, 3. This is some art and some advertisements for some of their other products. Holy Hack, the book of list. I haven't seen that. Says this is devoted to the biblical period. It covers scenarios, orders of battle, the peoples, and place of the ancient world at the time of pharaohs. A campaign system is included with a large map, lavishly illustrated in color and black and white. Players, miniaturists, strategists, and modelers will all find this book useful. So if you are looking for some list on playing in biblical times, that would be good. And then this is called For God and the King, devoted specifically to this exciting period in European history. Though this is, I think, the English Civil War. Larger units for more realistic play tested for over 15 years. The latest research taken into account. Good solid game mechanics with numerous examples of play. Scenarios included with orders of battle. Lavishly illustrated by noted artist Giuseppe Rava. I've heard of Giuseppe Rava. A must for the English Civil War enthusiast. So, again, if you're looking for some rule sets, maybe new, see if you can track these down. So other than that, and then these are just kind of some images of a game and play. We are going to go right into the play. Now, obviously, this is my first time doing this. So, you know, I may make some mistakes, but that doesn't really bother me. I like to just get right in and just start doing this stuff. You know, that's the quickest way for me to figure out if I know what I'm doing. Now, I'm probably not going to do a scenario. What I will probably do is just simply put some figures up and start, I was about to say rolling some dice, but I guess we're going to start pulling some cards. Okay, so we are in turn 1. Now, normally you have to assign your units tokens or draw up index cards, and then you would pull them to see who goes first out of a bag or out of a shuffle. Since I'm only playing with 2 units, I'm simply going to put a die for each one. So this brown is for the Saxons. This bluish purple is for these Normans. At least that's who they represent. And so I pulled out the Saxon card. Now, to tell you a little bit about what I did with the units, because I want to keep it simple, but I want to test different parts of the rules. So the Saxons, the Normans here have spears, which they can throw. And then after that, I will consider them simply armed with their other spear that they won't throw. So, for example, if you see this figure, he has 2 spears. So I'm going to assume that they're all kind of similarly armed, and they all have 2 spears, one specifically to throw, and the other one they will hold on to. The Saxons, on the other hand, have axes, and they also have shields, so they can form a shield wall. Now, in this game, the shield wall only helps you against missile fire. In melee, you get no benefit from the shield wall other than if you are attacked from that side, you're considered shielded, but you're not in a shield wall. And that difference will become obvious as we play the game. So other than that, we're going to kind of get started. This is the leader of the Saxons here, and this is the leader here of the Normans. You know, maybe they hired a Viking to lead them and train them. And so these Saxons have discovered the Normans' camp, or the Normans landing or whatever. Maybe this leader brought some Normans back to regain his throne. And so they are now attacking their position. Since they got the first dice, they have lucked up, and they will not have to endure a rain of missile fire from the spear units. That does not mean they might not get fired on later, but for the time being, they now have an option of charging. So the way a charge works is, and I have the quick reference chart here, which is actually very useful. I mean, you can almost play the game just looking at this once you understand everything. So their normal movement is 9, which I think that is a lot of movement, 9 inches. I'm assuming that's inches. For this game, I'm going to count it as centimeters, though, because I think it will make the game better for the small table that I have. If they are in rough terrain, they roll a d8, which is kind of odd for a game that is supposed to only use playing cards. You still need some dice for a portion of the game. So that's kind of, you still would better make sure you own a nice little selection of dice, because it goes from d8, d6 to d12s when you're trying to get through difficult terrain. So now they are partially armored with their chainmail. So their movement rate would be 9. If they charge, it says they add 1d6. I don't think they would need that. 9 is about 3.5 inches. So that would be 1, 2, 3. So yeah, they are going to need to add some more centimeters. So that is a 6. So that is another 6 centimeters, which comes out to about another 2.5 inches. So you go 3.5, 5.5, 6. So they can go 6 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that will get them in contact. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's going to go off against their leader. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's going to go 6. Because there is a rule about facing and things, which I will get to if that comes up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these guys did not get into contact, but they are still within grouping that they could form a shield wall later. And so that might come into a factor. So the first phase of the game is you draw your movement card, which this is what I use this die for. The next would be the phasing player rallies. We don't have anybody to rally yet. That will happen after the combats if there is any morale checks needed. And there's not a lot of situations for morale checks in this game. Phasing player shoots. They didn't have anything to shoot. And then there's a mutual melee. Now the way the mutual melee works is you can die when you're attacking another unit. It's not simply if you hit or miss, then, you stand there till your turn. They also, if you miss or you lose, then you will take damage. So the first one we're going to do is this. I have already determined that the Saxons with axes are going to be considered trained militia. So they are going to have a 1. The Saxons with swords are going to be veteran soldiers, so they will be a 2, and of course both leaders are a 3. So the first combat we have is here. We have a Saxon with an axe versus a Norman. I keep saying a Norman with a spear. Now his shield is to his side, so he's not being attacked there, so he doesn't get the shield. So this guy is attacking. He has his veterancy rating is 1, so he starts with a 1. His axe is considered a one-handed edge weapon, which gives him 2. So now he goes up to 3 in his factor. We look at his tactical advantages, and he is charging, so he gets +1 for that, which makes him a 4. And then let's see. Versus unshielded flank, no. Versus rear, no. Foot versus mounted, no. Uphill obstacle, no. And no wounds. So he is a 4. This individual here is He is a, oh man, I'm trying to think. He is a, so all of the spears on here, I'm going to make ones, right? Everybody, this guy is the leader. All of his spear guys are basically ones. They're not, they were just grabbed and ran off and told to come. So he will start with a 1, but I am going to let him use his shield to the front. That makes sense. So he starts with a 1. He has a spear, which would make him a 2 because the spear is 1. He then has, I think he then has a, does he get a bonus for his shield, or is that just if he versus the shielded flank? So I don't actually think he even gets a bonus for that shield because it's not one of the tactical factors. And now, whether he's in shield wall, well, shield wall doesn't come into play in melee, so I don't have to worry about that. That's good. And let's see, mounted versus foot, charging, whatever. So no, he is simply a 2. From what I can see, he's simply a 2. So we're going to do their result. So his card is a 3, so that gives him a 7, which that is not good. His card is a 6, which gives him an 8. So this Norman would win that fight with an 8, but his victory margin against a partially armored, he needs a 2. So basically, even though he won the fight, he does no damage to this guy. So these will now go into the discard piles, which they could potentially come up as a whole card. The next combat is here. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be a 4 versus a 2. We pull his card. He is a 6. Oops. No, that's his. I got to move that because I shouldn't have saw that. That sucked. Because that was a good card. His card, and I'm going to take his off. His is a queen, and I'm going to take his next one, and I'm going to move that to the bottom just to keep it even. So now this guy here definitely won this combat, and he won it by a factor of a lot more than a 2, which means this guy is going to be dead. So we have our first casualty on this side. The Saxon has fallen. I'm going to do the leader's combat last. We have this guy attacking here. Now, he could attack the leader or he could attack that guy. And I forgot the rule that says as far as when you're attacking him, but I'm going to let him double team on the leader here. And so the way it works is the leader will get 2 separate checks against each of those in 2 separate cards. But now a funny thing is up. This queen card is in the discard pile. My leader is now going to pull that, right? So I am now going to put this in my hold hand, right? So we work out their leader's attack. Their leader has a edge weapon, which makes it a 2. He is elite, which makes him a 5. He charged, which gives him a 6. And I don't think they get anything else for being a leader. Charging, and that's it. So he has a 6. This leader now, my Saxon leader there, we're going to work his out. He is a 3 because he's an elite. He has a shield to the front, which won't come into play. But it will come in a minute on the other side. But so he is a 3. He has a sword in addition to those shields. But he has a sword. So that is an edged weapon. So that makes him a 5. And he is just a 5. Now, against this guy, he is actually going to be a 6. Because, well, no, I think it's going to bring his attack down. So this guy that's attacking is attacking his shielded flank. So this guy with a sword is actually a 2. He charged, which makes him a 3. He is using an edge weapon, which makes him a 5. And if he was attacking the unshielded flank, it would be a +1. But because he has a shield on that flank, he is denied that +1. right? And so this guy is a 5. So now we will pull the cards. His card, oh, their leader only got a 2. This one got a red 6. And he has to pull a separate card for each. So against him, oh, he only pulled a 2, which would be a 7. Against him, he put, oh, wait a minute. See, I told you, we're kind of learning this. So because I have a whole card, I have to use that as my next pull. So that was going to go here. We're going to put that 2 there now. So that kind of shows you where we are at. So in this situation, he's only an 8. This guy is obviously a 5 plus a queen, which I think a queen is 12. So that is like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He beats them by 4. He's fully armored. So he beats him by 4, which means, well, he's partially armored. So I think the leader takes 1 hit. If a leader is hit, the opponent draws the next card. Leader dies on a heart. Otherwise, he receives 1 hit. So it says the opponent. So that means I take his card. This is not a heart. So their leader doesn't die. But their leader takes a wound for that. So we put that. Now remember, you can only do the whole card once per deck. You cannot do the whole card every turn. Once per deck. So until you get through the end of the deck, this Norman player cannot use that no more. In this one, he has a 5, 6, 7 versus a 6 and 5, which is an 11. So that's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So now he did lose that one despite... and I probably should have used that over here, but really I don't know if it would have mattered. So now I have to draw. His opponent would draw the card from my deck. I'm assuming it would be from my deck. It doesn't say whose deck. It just says the opponent draws the card. Opponent draws the hit. The opponent draws the next card. So either way, I'll just draw my next card. Yeah, it doesn't say whose deck he draws it from, whether I draw it from mine or his. So I drew this one from there, so I'll draw this one from mine. So it's not a heart. So that means my leader takes 1 wound too. So both of these leaders now have 1 wound. And I think that is everybody that can move. Now the interesting thing is these 2 guys charged, but they never made it in. But there's really no rule that indicates that anything adverse happens to them. And so the next movement card, so let me see after we do that. So we do mutual melee, morale checks if needed. So you check morale if they've lost 1/5 of a unit, they've lost their standard. I'm not playing with the standard. Or if they've lost, their leader is killed. So neither one of them have basically activated a morale check yet, which is good because we don't want the game to end that quick. And then we would pull the next move card, which in this case would be the next die, which in this case would then move the turn over to the Normans. So now, what are they going to do? So this is going to be interesting. So the first phase is we draw the movement card, which I'm just using a die. Phasing player rallies and moves. I have no rallies. Phasing player shoots. So now I can do some shoots with my spears. And so just to show you how spears do, this guy is locked in combat, so he cannot shoot. Okay. This guy, though, has a spear, so he is going to target him. And you have to designate who you're throwing at. Remember, you can't all throw at the same person. So this guy is throwing a spear at him. This guy is locked in combat. And you can shoot in the combat, although there is a chance of you hitting your own guy. But this guy is going to throw at him. Now, you might say, well, how can he throw at him? Because that's blocked. No, it's not blocked. If I have a piece of string and it goes through here and it doesn't bend or turn, it's not blocked. So I don't even need to bring the string out. This guy here has a spear, and he cannot double team somebody unless there's no other choice. So either he throws or he doesn't throw, and he goes into combat because he can't double team into combat. So he is not going to throw, right? The ones that threw, I don't think that they will be allowed to melee. I will check that. But so these two are both throwing, and we are going to resolve that. Okay, so we're going to pick up with our arrow attacks. I wanted to mark who was shooting. Also wanted to check the rule books. Now, javelins, what they're throwing, have a short range of 3. They have a long range of 6. You cannot pre-measure. Now, obviously, I'm playing with a hex grid, so I could have kind of pre-measured, even though I didn't. So this guy is in short range, and this is the one shooting. This one here is 1, 2, 3, 4. So he barely is in long range, but it's a big difference. So for short range, I will hit on any red card, and that is a hit. Now, he can block or he will defend, since he is partially armored, on any card of an 8 through an ace. Oh, he rolled a 7. So he just missed what he needed to defend. So he is actually killed. If you do not block it, you are killed. So that shoot is resolved. This car is now at long range though, so he will only hit on a heart, which we probably could have used that last card for his, which would have helped. And he rolled a spades, a black 3 of spades, so he wouldn't have hit even at short range, which I think is kind of realistic. I like that. I like the way they work that out. So now, the only thing I didn't clarify was whether or not if you shoot in the shooting phase, you can then also attack in the melee phase. So I'm going to double check that real quick. Okay, so I didn't clear that up, but I think the rules kind of clear it up themselves, since when you have a movement phase, you should obviously do your movement before the shooting phase. So even though these two figures shot, they can't now move in the melee because we're out of the movement phase anyway. So I think that was kind of nice that even I didn't find the specific thing saying so, I was able to kind of logically work that out. Now, I did do one thing wrong, where I omitted one thing, is when these Saxons charged in, because these guys had spears, they were actually allowed where they could have thrown their spear in. But I didn't elect to do that. You can see spear fire is kind of powerful because it can result in an immediate kill. But that's not what we did. So now what we are going to do is we have to resolve this fight again. The leaders are going to fight again because you keep fighting until the melee is resolved. This guy is going to fight. But because this guy is armed with a spear and he is behind him, he can fight with him. And this guy can fight either with the leader or with this guy because he's armed with a spear and he is behind him, right? So he can't get to his front, but only spear guys can do that. So we are going to do that. This one I'm going to rule is not behind him. He's actually to the side. So the first combat is here. And as we said, I think we said he was a 4 or a 5 the last time. He is a 2-stripe figure, or is he 1? No, the axes are 1. He's a 1-stripe figure, but he has an edge weapon which is worth 2. So that makes him a 3. And he does not get to charge this time. And so that is all he has. He does not get to charge. So he has a 3. Now, when you have 2 of them fighting like this, you add both their numbers together and they draw 1 card. So they do not draw separately as you do if you are double teaming somebody, right? Because this is kind of a support. So both of them are 1s, right? Because they're basic 1 guys. Their spears would give them another 1. So they would have a total of 4. Because it'd be 2 and 2, which is 4. Spears are only 1. Now, this guy does have a shield, but I think the shield will actually help him. I think it helps you when you're when you're rolling, because so far I have not seen where a shield to the front has any modifier. Charging versus an unshielded flank or well, actually, I guess what the shield does is it keeps them from getting an extra bonus. But I will try to clarify that, but not right now. So he will pull his card. Oh, he is at a 13. They will pull their card. Oh, they got a 10 as well. So they are at a 14, although I think the jack may be an 11. Because the jack is an 11, the queen is a 12, the king is a 13, and the ace is a 14. So the jack is actually an 11. So he's at 11, 12, 13, 14. They are also at 14. That combat is a draw. Neither one of them harmed the other ones. And that's what they said happens on a draw. So this guy basically fought two dudes off by himself. We're going to do these two. They're on their own. And now that I look at it, I'm not going to allow this guy to help this leader, because he could help him because he's behind him, but he's already in combat. But I'm not going to let him help. So these two are basically going to be almost the same thing. This guy is a 3. He is normally a 1 because he is a militia. No, he's a swords guy. Those are 2. Those are trained. So he gets 2 for being trained, 2 for his sword, which is a 4. This guy is a 2, 1 for a spear and 1 for being kind of a levy. So now we draw the cards. He has a 10 and he has a 7. So he loses that combat, the spear guy does, and he loses it by more than, I think, 1, which is all he needed. So the Normans have suffered their first loss of the game. We are now back to the leaders. This leader is now attacking that leader. This leader could actually try to pull a card off if it was on top, but it's not, because he could pull the card off to use as his whole card, but he can't do that right now. They both have 1 wound. They both are 3 plus 2 for an edge weapon. They're both 5s. So this is just kind of a straight up battle. They are both 5s. Neither one of them get a charge. Neither one of them are mounted. There's no uphill. There's no obstacles. They -1 for their wounds, so they both go down to 4s. And then you pull the card. 7 and a 4 is an 11. Oh! 9 and a 4. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So he beat him by 2. He is partially armored with chainmail, which that is all you need to beat him by 2. Now, we will pull a card again. If a heart is drawn, he is dead. And what I've been doing is pulling it from the loser's deck, although I don't know whose deck it is. I guess as long as you're consistent, it won't matter. He pulled a heart. Oh, the leader has fallen. The leader has fallen, which means now they are going to have morale checks. So let me finish up their phase, mutual melee, morale checks. Now it tells you the morale phase is for everybody. It's not just, oh, when their turn comes around. Every turn when the morale phase comes into play, anybody subject to a morale check must make it. So this is what we have to do. The leader has been killed. Any modifiers? 1/5 of the unit lost. Yes, we've already lost 1/5 of the unit. That's a -1. Leader killed is a -3. So they are at a -4, right? So now we will pull a card for each man at a -4. We will pull this for him. So that is a jack, but we -4 from that. So that brings that down to a 6. No, this is an 11. It would bring it down to a 7. So on this chart, which we have right here, 7 is an NE, no effect. So that pulling that jack for him was huge. That was a pretty big card. Well, wait, he's not an elite. He's an average. Oh no, that's for any of them except for militia. But he's not. Is he militia? Oh yeah, that one is militia. So he gets a fallback, which he moves 1.5 moves, losing any formation facing away from the enemy. May not charge next turn, but may move normally and need not rally. So his normal move is 3.5. So I'm just going to move him 2 back. And he is basically routing or falling back. So that is a big move there for this guy. I got to get some kind of marker to show that he's falling back and not routing, because there is a difference between falling back and routing. For the time being, I will simply put a blue thing by here to show that he's falling back. The next character is, let's do this guy here. He pulls a card, ace. He minuses 4. From that, he's still at a 10. He is fine. We will do this guy's card. 5 minus 4, that would put him at a 2, which is the lowest he can get. He has a sword, so he is an average guy, but that means he is routing. So routing is the same thing. You move away from the enemy, except for you have to rally or they keep falling back. So he's going to go 1, 2, 1.5 of his movement. Matter of fact, I'm even going to move him 3. Even though I think they're full movement since I'm doing centimeters. But now I can see why they do 9 inches, though. That makes a little more sense. And since he is routing, I'm going to put that marker there just to indicate that he's moving off the field. If nothing changes, he's heading off the map. So we're going to move our card deck. And I already did this guy. And I think that was the last one. That was the last one. So that would finish morale. We would then basically go through the card deck again. So I'm going to roll these dice and close my eyes and see which side is going to get the die first. I kind of think I see how this game is going. The Normans have repelled them, and the fact that their leader is still on the board is huge. Oh, that is the Normans. So now the Normans have nobody to rally, which is the first phase. Player rallies and moves. Phasing player rallies and moves. So he doesn't have any rallies. We can do our moves, which would actually be charges now. So he is going to, but if I do a charge, and if we try to shoot into them, the problem then becomes that there's a chance we could hit one of our own. Although they're running so far away, they might not be in range of a shot. Although a couple of them are in range of a shot, but you can only one person could shoot at them, whereas 2 can charge. So I'm going to do a charge here, a charge there, with both of those guys. They're well within their range of that. He still has 1 wound. This guy is going to charge here. He's going to charge there. This guy is going to move 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, no, he can only go 3 inches if I'm doing centimeters. So it would be here. And so he can get a shot on this dude. So we've done that. Now we do player shoot. So now I'm going to resolve that shot. He is throwing a javelin. That is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's still long range, so he would only hit on a heart. Still long range. And so he missed. So his turn is pretty much done for the turn. And then we do our mutual melees. So we will do this melee, and now because these guys are not back to back, they will each get their separate card pull. So again, he is a 4. No, 1. The axes are 1s, but the edge weapon would make him a 3. These guys are both going to be 2s, but they get separate card pulls. So, and he can pull separately against each of them. So his 3 against this guy is a 5. This one rolls a 4. So he has a total of 6 versus 5. Now he is I think he's just a basic unarmored militia. No, he's partially armored, so he is 2. So they need a margin of victory of 2, which he does not have. So he does not damage him because he does not have the sufficient margin of victory. On this one, he pulls a 4, and this one pulls, a 10. I mean, a queen is a 12. A queen is a 12. 12 plus 2 is 14. There's no way he can overcome that. So he is actually going to be slain in that battle. Wow, that was a big hit. So I resolved his throw. These two killed that guy as he was left alone. And now we do these guys who are basically attacking him in the rear. So we will do the leader first, who I think the leader is a 4 because he starts with 3. He gets 2 for his sword, which is an edge weapon, minus 1 for being wounded. That puts him at a 4. And this guy is obviously a 2. They charge, so he goes to a 5. He goes to a 3. And it says it is versus the rear. So he would get another 2, which would put him at a 7 because he's against his rear. He would get another 2, which would put him at a 5. And then we would pull the cards. So, and this guy right here is basically a 3. So let's do his against the leader. Oh, he got the ace. The leader has an 8. Now, I think the highest you can get is a 14, no matter what. It's not 17 or anything. So he is not going to be damaged because he pulled the ace. The highest you can get in any result is 14. You can't get higher than 14. So if it is higher than 14, it's considered 14, which is the ace. And that means they fought to a tie, which that was a very good result for him. Now, though, he has to face this one. So he has a 6 plus his 3, which is a 9. He has a 4 plus his 5, which is a 9. Oh, so he fought that guy off. Wow. Wow. But he is routing. But he can turn around on their turn. So now we go back to morale checks. That's called mutual melee. Again, they have to check morale again now because they've lost 1/5 of their unit. Their leader wasn't killed or captured, although he is off the board. They didn't lose 1/5 in a unit in a turn. That already happened. And they didn't lose their standard. So I guess they wouldn't have to check again. So instead, what it says is he may not charge on next turn, but may move normally and need not rally. So he can actually move normally, which for this case, he's going to turn around as a good Viking would do and try to take out their leader, which I don't think he's going to do, but good luck for him trying. This guy is fleeing, so he has to rally, and he has no leader with him. So he can't use that. Rally procedure. Draw 1 card or use your hold down card. Club rallies elites. Spade rallies elites and vets rally. Diamond, elites, vets, and regular. Since he has a sword, he is considered a... I think he's considered a regular. Or trained. Because elites are 3... Vets are 2, regulars are 1. No, so he's a 2. So he needs as a vet, he needs a spade or a diamond. And he wrote a club, which does not rally him. So he would move the rest of his movement. Does he have to make a full move? Or no, he keeps falling back 1.5 move, losing any formation. You know what, I did that wrong. It's not half move, it's 1.5. So if his move is 3.5 inches, that would actually be like 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this guy's almost off the board. And if he doesn't rally, he's going to be... We're going to do this one combat here because I think that's going to be the end of the game. But I'd like to see if he can go down fighting. Maybe he will take out a leader or something. So, once again, he is a Saxon. He is not a, what did they call them? Elites and just vets. He's not a vet. He's a regular. So he gets 1 for being a regular, 2 for his edge weapon. And that is about it. This can come off now. Their charges and things are gone. So he can only pick one of them. So does he go against the leader? The leader... But he could get an outright kill if he pulls a heart. So he's going to try to take on the leader. You know, maybe the leader's big cards are done. The leader is a 5 minus 1 for the wound, which would make him a 4. He's not facing the rear no more, so he doesn't get the other 2. And he didn't charge, so he doesn't get the other 1. So let's see. Oh! 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 They're both over 14, which means, again, they fight to a draw at a 14. And at this stage in the game, the leader, Wulfric, of the Normans, who has been hired by the Normans, he is so impressed by this soldier's gallantry, he calls his men off. He tells his men to let the other one go, let the coward run off, and he asks this brave warrior to join their retinue rather than die, which he quickly accepts the offer. And that is Pig Wars, guys. So we're going to do a wrap-up in a minute. I will tell you what I thought about the ruse. Hey guys, so this is going to be my wrap-up and my review. First of all, I will say I actually thought the system was quite enjoyable for a person who doesn't really like kind of non-dice games, because they always feel gimmicky to me. When people try to resolve miniature war games without dice, it can just get real gimmicky. I thought this actually worked very well. And it was funny because as I was playing the game, I could see a lot of the decisions that went into how the rules were prepared, meaning statistically or whatever. So in some instances, you needed to pull a heart, or you needed to pull a spade, or whatever. So you can cut the possibilities down by the suit as opposed to simply a number. And I thought that was kind of ingenious. I was also kind of impressed how they were able to use the cards for things like morale, things like shooting and whatever, and nothing actually felt gimmicky or out of place. I mean, and it kind of moved smoothly. I will say this about the system. It's kind of it says it's a unit game, but it's kind of more of a man-to-man game, because everything is resolved man-to-man, not by units. So it can bog down, I would think. I was playing with a total of, 12 figures, 6 on each side. Didn't take me long. I think the playthrough might have been 20 minutes. It may be a little longer on video because of me pausing. And of course, if there had been 2 of us, it probably would have went quicker than that. So I would think 2 people could play about 30 figures fairly quickly. You're just going to be going through doing the combats. I mean, I really liked a lot of the mechanisms where, like, the spear guys can support from behind. I liked that the leaders kind of had the extra wounds, but they were not invulnerable. Like a guy could hold his own against the leader. I like the different categories of the shields, the different rating of the guys. I think all of that kind of made the game very interesting. Now, you guys watch me play it. I'm sure there was a few things I probably didn't get perfectly correct, but none of it ever bogged the game down. The rule book I thought was actually very good. Actually, the best part is is this chart here. If you have this, I think you can play the whole game, even if you don't have the rules. You can pretty much play the game just using these quick reference sheets. Now, there was one thing we didn't use in the game, and it is this called the Pig Wars looting table. And this is kind of interesting because a big part of Pig Wars is you're playing scenarios where you are trying to steal loot. And so you see here, if you are stealing a chicken, it's worth 1 point, and 1 man can carry 2 chickens. And then so if you go down and say you're trying to take a chest, the chest is going to be worth 4 points, and 1 man can drag 1 chest 3 inches a turn. 2 men can carry 1 chest 6 inches. You could actually use this for any game. I mean, this does not have to be limited to Pig Wars, and I may even use this in my Fatal Blow scenario, or my Fatal Blow game, because I just kind of like the way that it kind of deals with these different things. If you have a prisoner, right, it's worth 2 if it's a base-born prisoner. If it's a noble, he's worth 3 D6 points as ransom. So, and of course, if you're playing a campaign, these points would all determine, which clan or tribe or whatever earns the most points or glory or loot or whatever over the series of the war. So I actually think that was nice. That didn't come into play in this game. I didn't have any archers, but I did use spearmen, so I think you got to see a little bit of how the spear rules work. I did tell you guys that you are not allowed to measure, so you probably wouldn't want to play it on a hex map. I tend to use the hex map for solo play because it just speeds things up if I'm not constantly pulling out a measuring tape. We got one use of the whole card, and like I said, I may not have done that right. A couple of more plays, and I would like to see if that worked, because I think one side never got to use their whole card. Now these are some optional rules. So the optional rules, you can use the jokers, and they would just be considered aces. You could have 2-shot shooters, so meaning if you did not move, which I had a few instances there, you would have been able to get 2 shots. Now I don't think with javelins you would do that. You would get heroic fighters, which would be like leaders because they could take wounds as well. Incremental morale checks, so you would make units check morale every time they lose, rather than having to lose it all on one turn. And so that was also something that I checked during the game. Break off from melee, right? And that would have helped, I think, the Saxons if they could have broke off, maybe pull it back and form shield wall. But I like rules, even like I didn't get to show it to you guys with the charge rule with the horses, where you can back up and then do your charge. So I mean, I would give these rules a B+. I think they're fast. I think they play fun. I mean, I still would like the dice. It's something about rolling the dice, and getting a kill, as opposed to pulling a heart and getting a kill. But I mean, it works for what it is. And I don't know. I may revisit this rule set again and let you guys see how it played out. But I would give it a solid B+. Like I said, there may be some things I think if you really push the system to its limits that would probably show up, and you'd have to kind of house rule or come up with some workarounds. But from what I saw, I thought it was a real good fun game, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you're enjoying the indie game series. The next one will probably be, I don't know, it may be my game system of Fatal Blow, or it may be maybe the Gothic Horror Wars one, the Rippers. That would be kind of fun and interesting. That one I just have to spend the time the day before putting together a crew and putting their stats and things down. Let me know if you guys got a preference. Take care. God bless.